facilitate the sharing of knowledge and discussion of key events affecting the globe. Honorable guests, we look forward to meeting you each month through Let's platform and DP World Pavilion throughout our 6 sessions, and we will host a complete group of speakers, innovators, thought leaders, and experts from various fields. Now I'll leave you with a short demonstrative video. I'll have the pleasure to welcome Dr. Hitendra Patel to the stage to share his insights. The floor is yours, Doctor.
In 1900, St. Louis hosted the World Expo, and people came from all over the world and were amazed. In 2000, I was in Shanghai to see the World Expo, and I was amazed at the speed and the change of the world, the technology,
أنا هذا اللي يستوي لي ده.
the demonstrations. Today, we're here. What a fantastic show. The technology, the innovation, the creativity of people. We are living in a time where everything is happening faster and faster. People are moving around the world. There are more scientists, more engineers, more universities than ever in the history of time. There is no problem that we cannot solve. There is no goals that we cannot set. But with this technology and innovation, as we see the need for green and recycling and renewables, we also see connectivity of devices, computers, and sensors. We also see, at the same time, the emergence of technologies like robotics. And as we see solutions, we also see new problems, new challenges of security and safety. The world is changing. And if you are not changing with it, you'll get left behind. The purpose of my talk today is to share with you many of these changes that are happening. Companies around the world have to innovate or they'll get left behind. Motorola, I used to work for them, is no longer here as a great technology company. They didn't innovate. Similarly, Kodak, for those of you who remember, is no longer here because at some point they stopped innovating. For those who stop innovating, they will die. As companies are doing this, the same pressure is on you guys. In government entities, as you think about security, as you think about safety, we have to think about the future of utilities, the future of healthcare, the future of transportation, the future of what you guys do, safety, security, the future of prisons. Everything is going to be different. Whatever you imagined was going to happen tomorrow is going to be very different. And so the question for you is, what are you going to do about this? What can you do differently to be able to do the changes that are emerging out there? Today, the technology of the old is gone. What you saw in Star Trek the TV show, Star Trek the movie, is now here. Doors open and close for you according to security. How does the door know you're a good person? Today, there are guns. You can fire at somebody. But if there are good people, you put the gun on stun, like in Star Trek, so you don't kill people. The future is now. The things in Star Trek are now a reality. People can communicate anytime, anywhere. The things of Star Trek allows us to track and trace people. What Star Trek was predicting is here. Your job now is to predict what's next. What else? Because Star Trek did its best to get us here. What's next now? The challenge for you as an organization which has to operate day in, day out to protect people does not give you enough time sometimes to think about what's next, what else. For those who are thinking what's next, what else, ideas will come. But when you're too busy doing your day job, running all the time on your day operations, it's very hard to think about what's next, what else. You need to put that in your library. You got to put that in your head every morning and ask, what's next and what else? And those who do that will imagine a future when new things will come. In Europe, the police agencies have come together, Interpol, and saying that the amount of change that is happening, the amount of technology coming is too much, and no one country can figure out what's going to happen next. They came together as a community to collaborate. Collaboration between police stations and police and sharing resources and sharing issues and ideas is what the Interpol is doing. They have a lab called Europol Innovation Lab. And this lab is paying attention to the future problems of biodiversity and pollution. That's the safety and security issue of the future. Children protection, future issues. And they're saying, how do we address them? And they'll say, oh, we can do autonomous cars. We can do robotics. That's all now. What's next? And to do that next, no one police station has all the resources. No individual can come up with all the ideas. You need to collaborate. You need to work as teams. You got to work with other police stations and network together to source the best practices, the best ideas, the future problems, and work on the solutions now. That's where we are today. The challenge when you're trying to innovate, though, is you ask everybody, hey, what are your ideas? But it's important for you to have a North Star. What is the North Star of the Dubai police? Where does Dubai want to be next? Dubai police. We know Dubai, as a country, has decided to be number one in everything. Is the Dubai police saying we will be number one in the world? What's your goal? Whatever your goal is, find out where you are today. Be humble. Be humble about the reality of where you are, and there's a gap. That gap is the opportunity for innovation. What do you want to be? Number one. And you can. This country has proved this again and again in so many things you chose, put your mind to, you have done that. You want to be number one in police? Let's make it happen. Next, where are we really? Are we number one already, or are we somewhere else? That gap is what you want to fix. and talk about that gap with humility. And if you talk about it with humility, then people will come with ideas for you. You don't have to solve the gap. People will come and help you solve the solutions. The gap. So the question is, how big is the gap? If the gap is very small, you don't need innovation. But I have to believe that the world is changing too fast, and therefore the gap is big. Second question is, how much time do you have? How much time do you have to solve and close the gap? If you got lots of time, then you can relax. But the world is changing fast. Safety and security is changing fast. People who do bad things are changing fast. So you have to run. You have to change. And those who don't change will get left behind. We want to be number one. Is that correct? I believe so. Where are we today? What is the gap? Let's close that gap by being humble and realizing that the ideas are in you and your teams and the people who work with you, in your customers and your partners. Get those ideas in here to close the gap to be number one. Be number one. If you do that and you say, we only have a couple of years to do this, then you create urgency. People will not move unless you make it urgent. When do you want to be number one? 20 years from now? Then many people will say, why should I work extra hard today? But if you say 5 years, people will start walking. If you say 1 year, they're going to be running. So time is important to create urgency. In Korea, South Korea, in 1953, it was the poorest, third poorest country in the world. How did they go from the poorest country, third poorest country in the world, to today one of the richest countries on the planet? The leaders of Korea, that's you guys, the leaders of the police, decided that whatever they're going to do, they're going to be number one or number two. You can go anywhere in Korea, and you'll see LG and Samsung saying we should be number one or number two. And they started putting pressure, they started asking people to work faster, and end result was today, we see it. Korea was able to move its people by saying, we want to be number one, we don't have enough time, we need to run. I want to introduce you to a word in Korea when I used to work. Every time I work with the CEO of LG or Samsung, he would say, how long will it take to do this project? And would say, 2 years. And they would do this. It's a sound they make, which means they're not happy. It's a Korean sound. And you look at him and he says, what's he going to say now? And he would say, can we do it in half the time? And we would say, what do you mean? And then he would take the table and he would hit it. And he would go, pali, pali. I want you to learn that word. Pali, pali. And what pali, pali meant was fast, fast. Not slow, slow, fast, fast. Create the urgency to make people move. Pali, pali is what made Korea the great country it is today. And when they did pali, pali, it was amazing. In my stomach, how could you do something you said it takes 2 years to do it in 1 year? And you were nervous and you were scared. But when the pressure came, we started thinking differently. Thinking about if somebody else were to do it, what would they do? Thinking differently. If we asked somebody for help, could we go faster? And as we started thinking differently, we found solutions from 2 years to 1 year. Pali, pali. So, opportunity for Dubai police is to be number one. There's a gap. There always is a gap because the world is changing. That gap is the opportunity saying, what are your ideas to make us get to number one? And the ideas will come if you ask everybody. And then you say, that's a great idea. How long will it take? And they'll say, 1 year. And you go, pali, pali. Let's go faster. And this will change the way people will think. Korea today is a roadmap and a standard for fast innovation. So now the question is, you as leaders, what can you do specifically to help drive innovation in your organization? What can you do? How many of you like watching soccer? Manchester United, Arsenal, yeah? When you look at the world's greatest basketball players or soccer players, you see the ball in front of their feet. And they're running full speed. While they're running, look at the face. It's going like this and like this, looking around, but not at the ball. The ball is on their feet as they're running, but they're looking. What do you think they're looking at? They're looking at the partners, who to pass to. They're looking at the competition. What can we learn from them? They're looking to score a goal. If you keep on watching the ball on your feet while you run around, you will never be able to achieve what's next and what else. As leaders, you need to look around for what's next, what else, without losing the ball on your feet. The ball on your feet is your day job. It's what you have to do. But while the ball is on your feet, because you have a system to manage the ball and the ball follows you around, you need to be able to look around, say, what else can we do? What else? What's next? If you as leaders are asking that, it will trickle down into the company, and others will come up with great ideas. What's next? What else? The same soccer players know that they can't play the game alone. The day is gone for the genius who figures everything out. There are great soccer players, but they need a team. And it is this team that you have to think about that will make you successful. Because you don't have all the skills or all the knowledge other people on the team might. Bring them in. And if your team doesn't have all the knowledge, bring in partners. Bring in partners from outside and collaborate. But you need to be open. You got to reveal your vulnerability, saying, I don't know who can help me. Please help me. Humble. Ask for help. Every great organization which innovates is humble. They listen to the problems, they ask for help, and they work together as a team. Teams succeed. This lone wolf will die in the winter. The pack, the wolf pack, survives in the winter. That's the story. In the example of Europol, in the Innovation Lab of Europe, they've connected all the country police stations together. They're sourcing all the issues into one place. They're asking for different areas for what are you doing? And what are you doing? And they're pulling the resource together to be able to do more together. Alone, they're too weak. Together, they're stronger in terms of money, number of R&D people, scientists, and everything else. Collaboration. So as leaders, you have to do number one. Look around for what's next and what else, like those soccer players. Like Ronaldinho, like Neymar, like whoever your hero is. Look around for what's next and what else. Number two, as you look around for what's next and what else, ask your people, what are your ideas for what's next and what else, and let them look for it. Give them some time and give them some space. And when they come up with great ideas, let's get them going into projects. But they may not have all the knowledge in the Dubai police. So let them go outside and say, who else can help us? Who else can help us? Collaborate. And if you collaborate, you're going to do much better. Which brings me to 3 lessons I want to share with you as to why innovation is hard. It's easy to talk about it. It's easy to say, what are your ideas? And everybody says, oh, post-its, post-its. And you get lots of ideas. It's very hard to make it real. The problem is, if you look at Kodak, Kodak was one of the most powerful companies in the world. They used to make film cameras. And then digital technology came, and they completely failed. But it wasn't because Kodak was not clever. Kodak was the first company to get the first 200 patents on digital technology. Kodak was the first one to put a team together with a CEO who understands digital is now. What was the problem then? Imagine you are at Maracanã. Maracanã is the football stadium in Brazil. It's the World Championship, and Croatia, little Croatia, is playing Brazil. And 500 Croatians flew all the way to Rio de Janeiro. And they went to the stadium wearing the red shirts, cheering, Croatia, Croatia, Croatia. And you look around, and what do you see? Excited people, happy people, and loud, because you are with your Croatians. But if you pull the camera back in the stadium, you'll see suddenly the whole stadium, and how many Croatians do you see compared to the Brazilians? The whole stadium is yellow. And they're saying, Brazil, Brazil. And those guys are going, Croatia, Croatia. And that's what the stadium sounds like. That's your issue in the Dubai police, where the innovation team, as loudly as they're yelling, they cannot hear because there's another 5,000 of you doing other things, yelling Brazil, Brazil, Brazil. So if you're on the innovation team, you have to talk louder, yell louder. And you think you're yelling louder, but I'm sorry. There's a big army of the regular team doing the regular stuff. In Kodak, there were 40,000 employees who were all chemical engineers. There were 400 digital electronics experts. 400 is a big number. And they were yelling, digital, digital is the future. And there were 40,000 people saying, chemicals. Well, you saw what happened to Kodak. The innovation team, as loud as they yell, they can't be heard. You are the leaders who need to listen to them and amplify their messages. You need to help their ideas be spread as leaders, because they will be doing the hardest and they'll think they're yelling loudest. But it is your voice which will make it real. This is a lesson from the leaders. The second lesson is the story of 5 monkeys. I used to work at Motorola. For those of you who remember the StarTech phone, yeah? My team is the team who worked on the lithium-ion battery for that phone. Our team brought lithium-ion battery to the world. We had over 100 patents, and the very batteries on your laptop today comes from our team. We were a great company. What happened? What happened? Nokia starts making phones, and when those phones came to the market, when you dropped them, they would break. Today, your Apple phones, if you drop them, what happens? They break. A Motorola phone, you drop it, it bounces back up into your hand and says, hello, how are you? Still works. You remember that. Those Motorola phones were brilliant. So what happened? Well, Motorola's first customer was the US military. The US military said, make us a phone that works at minus 40 degrees centigrade and plus 100 degrees centigrade. That's a big temperature range. Why? Because it's potential the military has to fight in the snow of the Arctic or the deserts of the Sahara. So the phones have to work everywhere. And they said, by the way, these phones can be used as hammers sometimes or as weapons. So make sure they don't break afterwards. And our phones were amazing. So when we saw Nokia's phones coming to the world, we saw they were breaking all the time. We're like, that's not a phone. That's not technology. But something had changed. The market had changed into human beings who were consumers, not the military anymore. And human beings do not live in minus 40 degrees centigrade and plus 100 degrees centigrade. They live in maybe minus 5 degrees centigrade and maybe 60 degrees centigrade. And Nokia was making phones for that range. This is an important story. So when we realized they were making phones that were allowed to break because consumers would blame themselves, and they were making phones which were cheaper and weaker, we went to our Department of Quality. And we said, we need to change our requirements, our regulations, our rules. Guess what our Department of Quality said? No, we can't change those rules. And we said, why not? And so if we change the rules, the phones might come out being bad. So we must stay with the old rules. That brings me to the story of 5 monkeys. 5 monkeys are put in a cage. In the middle of the cage is the rope, and on top of the rope are bananas. What do monkeys like? Bananas. So the monkeys are looking at the rope, look at the bananas, they start running up and start climbing up to go and grab the banana. Bad news for the monkeys, human beings are standing outside the cage with a water hose. And every time a monkey starts climbing up the rope, it gets close, they turn on the water hose and go, knock the monkey right off the rope. It falls down, and they spray the rest of the monkeys with water. Another monkey tries, same thing. A third monkey tries, same thing. For 2 weeks, the monkeys try, and after a while, they're just running around, looking at each other. They see the bananas, they don't go up anymore, because they don't like to get wet. Because every time they knock one monkey down, they spray all the others with water. The monkeys forget about the banana. Then they take one monkey out of the cage, and they put a new monkey in there who has never experienced water. This monkey sees bananas, starts running up, and guess what the other 4 monkeys do? They grab the monkey and they hit it. Monkey looks, what's wrong? Banana. They hit it again. Pow. They take it down. After a while, the monkey learns not to go up the rope because the other 4 monkeys are beating it. Because they know they'll get sprayed with water. They take a second monkey out of the cage and replace it with a monkey who has no experience with water. This monkey does the same thing, goes up the rope. All the 4 monkeys start running, including the one who had no experience with water, and they hit it. And the monkey learns very quickly not to go up the rope. And they slowly change all the monkeys out of the cage who had no experience with water. After a while, all the monkeys in the cage had no experience with water. But they knew one thing. If anybody goes up the rope, what do? Grab it down, throw it down, and hit it. And none of the monkeys knew why they were doing it. And this is the problem at Motorola. The person who was in charge of quality did not know why the rules were minus 40 degrees centigrade and 100 degrees. She had inherited her job from somebody else in a manual. And the manual said that. And she said, this is the rule. And we told her, let's change the rules. And she says, I understand, but no. And the message for all of you is the old rules of yesterday might not be the right rules of today. What got you successful in the past may fail you in the future. All of you know that. I don't want to say it in the analogy, but we don't want to be that monkey. We don't want to be the one who does something and doesn't know why. The rules of the past, tradition may actually cause problems for you in the future. Watch out for that. Number 3 is change. The 3 lessons you guys have to watch out for. The football stadium, people yelling. Here's our idea, but it doesn't sound very loud. Number 2, tradition. Tradition will hold you back. And number 3 is you don't believe the world will change that fast. You don't believe the world will change that fast. When I was in Motorola, we used to predict the future, just like in Star Trek. And everything we predicted in the 90s happened, but much later. In the 2000 to 2010 period, everything we predicted happened in time of what our prediction was. Now we live in a very different world. Everything you're predicting is happening faster and it's different than you imagined. The speed of change is very fast. You have a Titanic. There's an iceberg in front of you. It seems very far away. You think when you get close, you'll change direction. Today, the time to change is not a lot. You have to be flexible and nimble. And those who move quickly will get done quickly. Those are the 3 lessons you have to watch out for. Number 1, listen to your innovators. Because they're going to be yelling, but you'll not hear them. Number 2, watch out for tradition. The very tradition that made you successful may be what will fail you in the future. And number 3, change is happening faster than you can believe. So with that, I want to leave you the message. I believe in Dubai. I believe in everything this country has put its mind to, it has achieved. If you guys put your mind to being number one, Dubai Police is number one, you will get there, but you got to set the goal. Behind that, there's a gap. Close that gap by being humble. Be realistic of where you really are. And then ask for ideas. Those ideas will come to you. But you ask for ideas by asking, what else? What's next? What else? What's next? And if you do that, people will come with ideas. And the ideas that come out, you need to listen to them. Listen to them carefully. Because if you listen to them carefully, you can amplify it. And if you don't get stuck with tradition, you will be able to change. And if you believe that change is important, Pali. And that will get you to where you need to get to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Hitendra Patel, for this inspiring and blessing talk. Thank you very much. Now I'll have the pleasure to invite His Excellency Commander-in-Chief Abdullah Khalifa Al-Marri to the stage to honor Dr. Patel. I would like to welcome His Excellency Mohammed Al-Muallim from DP World. At the end, I would like to thank the forum sponsor, His Excellency Commander-in-Chief Abdullah Khalifa Al-Marri, our host, DP World, and our speaker, Dr. Hitendra Patel. Thank you for joining us in the first session of Let's Talk initiative, and looking forward to see you next month with a new session, a new element, and a new speaker. Have a good evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatun min Allahi wa barakatuh.